All right, I got about 30 minutes, so let's talk Chud the Builder. Um, for those that are unaware, Chud the Builder got arrested earlier. I think it'd be earlier today or late yesterday. Um, and for those that don't know who, when I say Chud the Builder, and you don't know who he is, you are a very fortunate group of people who do not have to occupy social the darker corners of social media. For those that don't know and you want to know, I'll give you a background of it, but the long story short is Chud the Builder is a guy who found that he could get a lot of attention on social media by walking around Nashville calling black people the N-word and then flashing a gun and threatening to shoot them if they did anything to him. And that was literally what his entire content was. And when they started doing the behind the scenes of the people that he his victims, essentially, the people that he targeted, it was unprovoked, people out minding their own business, enjoying their own day, and invariably found themselves in more or less a skit for him. And I think he got banned off of Kick, which is a pretty big deal because Kick allows everything. So it was predictable and it was documented and it was public. And I said it in other groups I was in on social media saying what he's doing is actually kind of aggravated assault. I think it was in Tennessee because you're basically brandishing a weapon and threatening to shoot people. And you're basically trying to instigate a confrontation and then shoot somebody claiming it was self-defense. And I knew that that was more or less illegal. It's a L on the authorities for not taking action sooner because he actually shot somebody yesterday. And he shot himself, but he actually shot somebody yesterday. So that's the long story short. I'm gonna get into chopping this fable. This is Brian with Blurting While Dad. So let's get into it. So this wasn't just offensive content. Like this isn't just shock jock shit, the innocuous Andrew Dice Clay, I'ma say some offensive words, the Tony Hedgecliffe thing, let kill Tony dude, right? Like I'ma say something offensive and get social media talking about me kind of stuff. It wasn't that. It was I'm gonna go out there and try to provoke people into a confrontation and then threaten to shoot them. And then he would even say, I'm gonna blow somebody's head off. Like he was like verbally talking about how he was going to actually shoot somebody one of these days. And so not understanding that he's basically building a case against himself. Okay. This man built a content business around provoking black people into a violent encounter. That's what he did. And the people that he encountered almost to a person were basically telling him, you're protected. We know that you got protection. We know that you got a gun. We know that you got a camera and stuff like that. We're not going to, take that stuff off and we could talk. But until then, we're not going to do anything. And then he was just start ramping up the insults, looking to provoke the reaction. And it wasn't him just walking around threatening men. He was threatening women. He was menacing black children. I have no idea why this was allowed to continue to go on. Um, and the local authorities should have caught up with dude a long time ago. And I don't want the thing I don't necessarily want is the, oh, I'm so disgusted kind of post and everything because we're kind of past that piece of it. It's why didn't the people in charge do anything? The long story short is, unfortunately, some communities are considered uh, collateral damage and reasonable collateral damage, and that's kind of happened. So build a content business around provoking black people. He had a base of fans. They even are like they'll pop up on like and not on things like Facebook where you got your whole everything out in the street and they'll still defend him. And so the point isn't not to just say racist man is a bad person. Okay. He made a calculation and to be honest with you, given the climate of social media, his calculation was correct. The authorities did not care until he actually shot somebody, and then they feel okay, we got to get him off the street because the problem is he shoots somebody and then it turns into something else because what if he misses? He is an innocent bystander or whatnot. He discharged a weapon on a public street, in front of a courthouse. Uh, Due to a confrontation that he started, and from the video that I could pick up, and I'm not gonna put this dude's video on there. I don't even want to put his face on my screen, but the 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 dude he confronted basically said, "Man, I got PTSD. Get away from me." And he kept going, and dude punched him, and that's where it started. So we were treated like collateral damage until the danger became impossible for the state to ignore, and they're almost demanded to take action. Okay. So, for those that don't know, his name is Dalton. It looks like Etherly, and he's also known as Chud the Builder. Reports describe him as a live streamer known for making racially derogatory statements towards black people in public settings. And it's not like I said, it's not just men that he's going after. He's going after women, and he's even calling children racial slurs. And I don't understand how somebody thinks that's funny, but it is what it is. He was charged with the shooting outside the Montgomery County Courthouse in Clarksville, Tennessee. Local reporting says he's been charged with attempted murder, employing a firearm during a dangerous felony, and aggravated assault, which I thought that they could have picked him up on without him shooting people. And reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. Local reporting also says that he had been filming himself using racial slurs against black people. It reports that he had posted language about him defending his life with lethal force, and it made him racist. And this was kind of a series finale a couple of days before the shooting. And so basically, he was kind of signposting that he was reaching that point where he was getting ready to shoot somebody. Tennessee assault law includes intentionally knowing or causing another person to reasonably fear imminent bodily injury. Tennessee's aggravated assault can apply when assault involves use or display of a deadly weapon. So this is basically brandishing a weapon and threatening people. And that's kind of one and the same. And so it matters because it wasn't merely just he said the taboo word. And I need people to really get off of that. It wasn't just saying the taboo word. It's the legal and moral questions that happen when he's actually targeting a group of black people narrowly and trying to provoke them with threats and weapons and all that other stuff. Like I saw him interact with white folks. The energy was never the same. And he's even been confronted by white folks down in I believe it was Nashville. And he never had that same energy. Like he'd call them, the beta and all that other stuff that those weirdos like to throw around and stuff. But it was never like the slurs. Okay. So we're confusing free speech with a hunting license, and that's kind of what happened. He signposted what his intention was. He mentioned it on his stream. He said that this is what he was building towards, and I don't think that he was particularly smart. I don't think that this was a planned thing. I think that it's the intoxication of the attention, and he found a way to get the attention that he was looking for. And this was his methodology and his framework. And he realized that, hey, if I go mess with black folks, then nobody's really going to care. Okay. And it's kind of that thing that, and it goes into a bigger piece, a long time, on YouTube, they used to have the hip hop serial killer kind of videos where it's using the black community and, you know, violence in the community as entertainment for people that are outside the community or whatnot. And that's kind of what it was. Yeah, he was kind of positioning himself as, I'm tough. I can go down there and punk these black folks out and call them all kinds of names. They're not going to do anything to me. But the not going to do anything to me is I'm gonna brandish my weapon and threaten to shoot them. And I think a lot of people made the business decision at that point. But in the interviews after the fact, when they interview people after it, they say he just came. I was minding my own business and he hit me with the slur. I didn't even know the dude was there. There was no interaction before anything. He just rolled up on me, said a slur, and then started recording. And so we know what the intention was. Okay. He didn't just wake up one day and get into a random fight outside of a courthouse. This has been building. I've been aware of this dude for at least 6 or 8 months. Okay. And this wasn't some shocking twist. This was the obvious ending. I said that he's going to pick up a charge like a day or two before he picked up the charge. I knew it was coming. I was just hoping that it wasn't at the expense of somebody getting shot. Okay. Some person that he targeted and victimized and pursued and disrupted didn't I was hoping that it wouldn't be I was hoping that it didn't end with somebody that he targeted getting shot. But it's not shocking. It's the end of the story. It's the obvious end of the story. Now we need to see what the court system does. His GoFundMe, apparently, there was a go. Somebody mentioned a GoFundMe. I haven't clicked on it yet. But apparently there's rumors about his GoFundMe is jumping off right now. People are dumping money in because that's the world that we live in right now. Let me fix my camera here. All right. So He built a persona around walking up to black people, calling them racial slurs, hitting record, and then trying to provoke a reaction. And then he was positioning himself as the victim if somebody finally called him out and checked him. And then he would pull out the weapon and then he would say, "I'll shoot you." And we'll say it was self defense. And like I said, he rolled up on women with children doing this stuff, bro. Like this wasn't manly or tough or anything. This was him looking for people that he could get away with this from. The question is not why didn't somebody punch him before? I know Charleston White was talking about that. Why didn't somebody hit him before? Because we know how that would have gone, and it went exactly the way. No, nobody was going to crash test dummy themselves. Most people weren't going to crash test dummy themselves and be the first person that he shot. That just didn't make any sense. The question is, why did the state wait this long? Why did they wait until somebody actually got shot? That's the question. That's what I want to know. Why they wait till somebody gets shot? You had plenty of reason to pick him up all the way up until this point, but you had to wait till somebody actually gets shot. Okay. You can't look at what happened at the courthouse where Chud the Builder finally did hurt somebody. You can't look at that as this isolated incident. Everything was building up to it. He was even verbally escalating himself each stream after stream. Every viral social media post, he was escalating. Okay. And so we're looking at how they kind of laundered the responsibility. And so they're going to put it off on him because, yeah, it is his responsibility. He's the one that made the conscious decision to go out there, try to instigate people, and then threaten to shoot them and for content. Right. But somebody at the state has to say, hey, we need to probably intervene before this because this is actually a public threat. Like, this is an actual public threat. This is a threat to public safety. We need to address this. Okay. So the system kind of laundered the responsibility. They took this pattern of behavior and chopped it up into disconnected little moments and then acted surprised while it turned violent. And this was predictable. It's predictable as a snow fight. Like, it's going to happen. Okay. And the reports aren't describing a private racist, you know, it's not just that. Who said something ugly in his own house. This is somebody who's actually physically going outside and going into public spaces, specifically targeting black people, recording it, escalating it, monetizing it for attention, and then daring people to respond. A lot of states have a fighting words clause, bro. Like, you cannot walk in a lot of states, you cannot say fighting words to try to provoke somebody into a violent action and then claim self-defense when you get hit. Like, it doesn't work like that. And for whatever reason, like I said, I don't think the dude is too bright. They had it in Tennessee, but it would be under aggravated assault. He could have been charged a long time ago. Why didn't somebody do something? Instead of expecting somebody on the street who now is a potential victim of his to take a step and do something. I don't understand this line of thinking. So it goes into this ain't debate, this ain't humor, this ain't free speech, this ain't any of that. This is a dangerous individual walking around trying to provoke violence and then use it as justification for more violence. Okay. This is racial harassment as content. It worked really well. Social media ate this shit up. It went viral. That's why I don't want to put this dude's face on my screen, bro. Like, he went viral doing this, y'all. Like, I don't think you understand that there's an undercurrent in this society that devours this kind of content, that needs this kind of content, that enjoys this kind of content. I don't think people understand it. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because the monetized attention that social media can bring, I mean, we've seen it before, man. The entire, like back in the days with Jerry Springer, where people are going on there to get that Jerry Springer check and they'll do and say anything to get on that screen. This is just him being able to do that and reach an audience of billions. And lots of people consume that content. Lots of people consume Chud the Builder's content, and they weren't doing it because it was making them mad. They were doing it because they thought it was entertaining. And I think that's the real question. A lot of people who aren't funny think that racism is just edgy humor. The almost unfunny motherfucker thinks that edgy humor is saying the N-word. And that's it. That's the funniest thing that he can come up with, right? Not even fart jokes. It's just N-word, like that they think that that's edgy humor. Like I said, that Kill Tony dude, that's his entire stick is getting up there saying something racially offensive and watching people go, "Oh," and it's like, "Ah, you don't know how to laugh." All right? So, I mean, at least like if I was watching the show Jackass, at least even though it's lowbrow humor, even though some of the stuff they're doing, a lot of the stuff they're doing is dangerous. Um, there is elements of it where they were only putting themselves at risk. Stupid as it was, they were only putting themselves at risk. They weren't going out there and deliberately harming unrelated people and then using them as content to make money. All right, let's see what I got. I got a comment here. Very true. Yeah. I just like I said, I'm kind of over like the shock and surprise and everything of this entire Chud the Builder thing, bro. It is very frustrating to watch people act like this was a surprising thing that was happening, and act like this isn't a common thread of in media right now. The shock jock kind of thing. I'm gonna say something shocking, and everybody's gonna jump all over it. So let's talk about the free speech trap before I got to get out of here. Some people are gonna run straight to the First Amendment and use that as a defense. Racist speech is protected speech. Okay, it can be protected free speech. That's kind of one of the things that comes with being in this country. Racist speech can be protected free speech. All right, but the conversation just can't stop there, right? Because it's not whether he had a right to say the slur. It was his intent behind the slur, what he was trying to do. It's whether he had a right to go out and narrowly target people in public who are minding their own business and put the fear, not only the anger and the feeling of insult of being called a slur, but then the fear of possibly getting shot for reacting to this man insulting you. He introduced that into their life. And like I said, it wasn't just adults that he was going after kids too. And the worst thing that could have possibly happened is he roll up on some a black teenager or something, a kid who doesn't have that switch of cause and effect 100% wired in their brain, and it will turn into a fatal encounter. And that was my biggest fear. Or you would get somebody who had some kind of mental illness. This man that he shot said he had PTSD. He took advantage of that. That's what and he ended up shooting him. I don't know if the gentleman I was hearing that he isn't critical, but I don't think so, according to the reports that I've read. And I haven't read anything that really gives a status, but I know the guy survived. Man, Chud shot himself in the arm. Okay. He targeted people. He threatened lethal violence. And then he hid behind this idea that he was within his rights of self-defense when the confrontation was escalating towards what he wanted to happen. I know he threatened to mace people in one of the videos, and he said, "I'm gonna blow this dude's brains out." Like he said it. I'm gonna blow somebody's brains out. Like he went out there and said it, standing with his full chest. Okay. The First Amendment is not supposed to be some cheat code that lets you terrorize people until somebody reacts. I'm sorry. And the government isn't preventing you from doing that. The government put hard lines around, hey, you can't brandish weapons. You can't instigate a conflict and then shoot somebody and then say it was self-defense, because you could have avoided that conflict had you kept your mouth shut or had you not threatened somebody with a gun. Okay. I'm not saying that every racist threat is aggravated assault. I'm saying once you start targeting threats and proximity and repeated harassment, and you're going out to the same places, engaging in the same thing, it's in introducing a firearm into the situation, it turns into a pattern. Okay. And the state doesn't get to pretend that it's just free speech. It's not. And I do think on some level, the people that were in the decision making capacities in that state, they kind of fumbled right there, because they could have picked him up a while ago for some of this stuff and pulled him aside and said, "You cannot do this. You are not protected under the law to do this. It's not self defense if you go harass somebody and then shoot them after you initiated the conflict. Once you initially start adding like targeting threats and all the other stuff, it changes the dynamic. Tennessee's law itself recognizes assault when someone intentionally or knowingly causes another person reasonable fear of imminent bodily injury. Aggravated assault enters the conversation when a deadly weapon is used or displayed. He did both of those things, and they could have got him at any point in time. He just ended up victimizing and shooting an individual. It's predictable. The most damning thing about this whole thing was it wasn't the shooting or anything else. It was nobody can honestly say that they didn't see this coming. I don't know of anybody that can honestly say that this was not the most predictable outcome. His content is all the evidence they're going to need. And apparently they said that that's what they're going to go through. They're going through his content library. And his public behavior, I mean, that was a canary in the coal mine. The way he talked about shooting somebody and using lethal force, that was the warning. And I know that if I'm saying shooting and all this other stuff on some of these social media platforms, it's not this, they will not push this. But we need to talk about it. We need to talk about what's real. Because social media platforms were allowing his videos to be published on their platform and allowing them to be reposted for content and for clicks. And so they can insert ads in it. These social media platforms were allowing it, but right now they're going to suppress this video because I'm talking about he was saying he was going to shoot people. So they were fine with using the video to stoke the outrage. But the videos that talk about what he actually did are probably going to get suppressed if we use the wrong words. It's crazy business, man. The fact he kept seeking conflict with black people, that is the insidious part, and his audience loved it. There's a lot of people sitting at home with these weird revenge fantasies because for whatever reason they despise or they're intimidated by or whatever. I'm not getting into the psyche of the weirdo, but they have an axe to grind with black folks, and so he was their avatar. He was the one that was going out and saying the things that they felt like they wanted to say, but they couldn't. He was talking tough to those black guys. Anytime you see, you know, somebody on that, well, yeah, I'm gonna show those tough guys. You think you're tough, huh? That's kind of where that comes from. He kept seeking conflict with black people. And that was the warning. And again, I know I'm a broken record on this. It wasn't just adult men that he was going after. He was going after black children. He's going after women. Like it was ugly and it was bullying behavior. And I hate bullies. Oh, I can't stand bullies. Uh, the violence was not a mystery. It was kind of the entire business model. I mean, how much money has he made off of this? And right now he's probably got a GoFundMe up running according to rumors or whatnot. And that's probably going to make him a little bit of money. Okay. It wasn't just one red flag. It was an entire, an entire runway of red flags that just got ignored. Okay. So this is kind of where, I want to be really, 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 really clear and make sure black people were treated as accepted collateral damage for this. We were treated as crash test dummies for Chud the Builder because nobody is out protecting us from him, even though he was actually doing illegal things before he was shooting people. Okay. The harm was humiliation, fear, provocation, and public harassment. System was cool with that. As long as the people he targeted were black people, the response was basically, well, what can you do? It's free speech. When it really wasn't, because there are laws on the books of Tennessee saying that you can't do that. You can't instigate a fight with somebody and then claim self-defense when you shoot them. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Trying to get my thoughts out here about Chud the jailbird. Uh, it was what can we do as free speech? That's how people viewed it. And that answer is never neutral. Uh, if he was going around brandishing his gun on teenage white girls, they'd have been picked him up. He'd have been menacing. It'd been some kind. They would have found a way to get him off the street. Sorry, that's just how it goes. Like I said, he threatened children, y'all. Like he threatened He pulled his gun to threaten children and stuff, bro. Like, I don't understand where we need to go with this. Like, he was calling children slurs and then daring somebody to say something to him. Black children, but they didn't care. I know that there is not a single layer of privilege that exists for me to go out there and do anything similar to what he was doing and not expect the police to be at my door when I get home. And this is before the courthouse stuff. Black people had to absorb the harassment and regulate their emotions and keep walking when faced with a lunatic with a gun. And it's just expected that we do that. We're not allowed to even like it was sketchy on whether we could even defend ourselves against it. And we just had to hope the armed racist didn't decide to escalate and find a reason to use his weapon. That's not public safety. That's only public safety for some people. Okay. The state didn't fail to see the danger. They failed to value the people in danger, and they failed to act to protect the people that were actually in danger until somebody got hurt. That's the indictment against Chud. That's the indictment against the state of Tennessee. Like I said, this dude, everybody knew he was down in Tennessee, bro. There's a whole ecosystem of people that understood if they can provoke somebody into touching them, they could try to turn themselves into the victim. And that's why this case matters beyond one racist streamer, because there's going to be another Chud the Builder. Watch. There's going to be somebody else who follows in his footsteps. It may not even take a week or a month for it to happen. It may happen in the next couple of days. Because we built a culture where certain people can antagonize, threaten, invade space, escalate situations, and then walk away or wait for walk away from the situation like it's not a big deal. Or they can wait for the person they targeted to respond physically and then use that as justification for lethal force. And then the story becomes he was attacked. No, the full story is he created the conditions for the violence and then tried to claim moral high ground when violence arrived. You run around calling people slurs, and then what are you gonna do about it, bro? You know, I could say I'm freedom of speech. I could say whatever I want to. Okay. So now you're taking the moral high ground after calling somebody a slur unprovoked. They're a person out minding their own business. Nobody was interacting with him. He instigated all these conflicts. Nobody said anything to him. He would slur them and then start recording. Okay. You don't get to dump all the gas, light all the matches, and throw them on there and then act surprised when the fire starts. Okay. Last thing I want to get on, and I gotta go pick up kids from school. The detail about the man telling him to step away because he had PTSD matters, because that's when it turns from a generic confrontation into a situation where somebody is verbally communicating distress and asking for space, and he didn't provide it. And the reports of video had to support that he kept escalating after dude said, "I have PTSD. I have a mental condition. Get away from me. Stop talking to me." Okay. We're not talking about a misunderstanding. We're talking about someone choosing to keep pressing a person who had already warned them that the interaction was escalating and it trigger a bad situation. That's predatory, man. That's predatory. I want to be precise because the investigation still matters. The court's going to decide everything, right? I'm just throwing in my 2 cents here. But as a cultural pattern, we could talk about what this looks like to me. And that's what I'm doing. Free speech. It looks like a man looking for the exact reaction, because he even said it. Like, he even mentioned that that's what he's going. He kept saying that that's where he was going. Like he was going to shoot somebody. So I'm not asking if the police can arrest every single racist. That's not even realistic. And I'm gonna hold that line. I'm not gonna say it. If you know me in real life, you know exactly where I was gonna go with it. So just understand that, yes, but I'm not gonna say it. Um, yeah, about the police arresting every racist, because yeah, there's something else coming there. The question is, when does a documented pattern of targeted public harassment, threats, racial intimidation, and provocation become enough for them to decide to intervene? Because if the answer is only after somebody gets shot, then that's not preventing violence. And I know that we talk about the prevention side of law enforcement and how it's not prevention, it's more reacting. Okay. So I got a lot more to say about this and I ran out of time. So I may just do a part 2 to this video. I just wanted to drop my thoughts. I'll talk to y'all later. Learning while dad. Peace.